If you claimed Social Security at 62, I need you to stop what you are doing right now and stay with me for the next 11 minutes because there is a very real chance that a single decision you made at the kitchen table years ago is going to cost your kids $250,000 after you are gone. Not a theoretical number, not something that might happen. I am talking about a specific, calculable, legally documented amount of money that was redirected away from your family the moment you signed that form. And nobody from the Social Security Administration is going to pick up the phone and call you to tell you about it. That is not how this system works. The system sends you a monthly amount, you accept the monthly amount, and the money your family was supposed to receive just quietly disappears into a calculation you were never shown. Today, I am going to show you exactly how that number reaches $247,000, how to find out if it already happened to you, and the one step you can still take to recover part of what was lost. Stay until the end. The last step is the one almost nobody takes, and it is the only step that actually moves money from the SSA system back into your family's account. If you are not subscribed yet, do that right now and turn on the bell. Social Security rules, survivor benefit calculations, and correction procedures change every single year. When they change, nobody from the government explains what it means for your specific situation. That is exactly what this channel does. Subscribe, and let's get into it. Before I get into the details, let me tell you about something that happened 2 years ago that I think about a lot. A retired factory supervisor in Dayton named Walter had claimed Social Security at 62. He was healthy at the time, but work had gotten physically demanding, and the early check felt like a lifeline. His monthly benefit came out to $1,480. He never questioned it. His wife, Barbara, was 3 years younger and had always earned less, so her own benefit was smaller. The plan was always that, when Walter passed, Barbara would switch to the survivor benefit based on Walter's record. Walter died at 79. Barbara went to the Social Security office to claim the survivor benefit. She was told the amount, $1,480 per month. The same reduced amount Walter had locked in when he claimed at 62, not his full benefit. Not the amount he would have received if he had waited until 67. Not the amount he would have received if he had waited until 70. The reduced amount. Permanently reduced. Because the survivor benefit is based on whatever the deceased spouse was actually receiving or would have been receiving if they were still alive. Walter claimed early. Walter's benefit was permanently cut. Barbara's survivor benefit was permanently cut by the exact same percentage. She is now 76 years old. She receives $1,480 a month instead of the roughly $2,200 she would have received if Walter had waited until 70. That is $720 less every single month, $8,640 less every single year. Barbara is likely to live another 15 to 20 years based on actuarial tables. $8,640 times 20 years is $172,800. And when Barbara struggles financially, who steps in? Her kids. They cover the property tax. They cover the medical bills. They cover the home repairs. Over that same 20-year period, the kids' out-of-pocket support adds another $70,000 to $80,000 on top of the $172,800 Barbara lost. That is how you get to a number around $247,000. One decision at 62. $250,000 gone from the family. Walter's story is not unusual. It is, in fact, far more common than most people realize. And the reason it keeps happening is the same every time. Nobody told him the full cost. Here is the foundation of everything I am going to explain today. When you claim Social Security before your full retirement age, your monthly benefit is permanently reduced, not temporarily, not for a few years until it catches up, permanently, for the rest of your life. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, your benefit is reduced by 30%. On a benefit that should have been $2,000 a month, that is $600 every single month you will never get back for as long as you live. Now, here is where the problem starts. That reduction does not end with you. It transfers directly to your surviving spouse through the survivor benefit. The survivor benefit is based on the higher earner's benefit amount. If the higher earner claimed early and locked in a reduced amount, the survivor receives that same reduced amount for the rest of their life. The Social Security Administration themselves have acknowledged making approximately $2.5 billion in underpayments in 2022 alone. And according to research published by Social Security Intelligence, nearly half of all surviving spouses receiving benefits are receiving less than they are entitled to because of claiming decisions made by the deceased spouse years earlier. If even 1 year of delayed claiming is missed, the family's lifetime benefit is permanently lower. Over a 30-year combined retirement, that gap can reach $247,000. Not because you did anything wrong, because nobody told you the math. Now, I want to tell you about the practical companion to everything in this video. The Inheritance Quick Shield Guide walks families through the Social Security claiming decision and its direct impact on what your kids inherit. The Survivor Benefit Calculator that shows your exact family loss, the Claiming Age Comparison Worksheet, the Delayed Retirement Credit Tracker, and the step-by-step process for reviewing whether your current benefit was calculated correctly. The outcome is simple. Your kids keep the money that was supposed to come to your family. The SSA does not keep a dollar more than what was calculated correctly. Link is in the description. Now, let me add the second layer to this, because for people who claimed at 62, there is a specific calculation that has quietly cost millions of families $250,000 or more. And it comes down to one number that most people never fully understood. If you were born anywhere between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. The Social Security Administration allowed people to claim as early as age 62, and millions of people did exactly that, especially during years when jobs were uncertain or health was declining. What many of those people were never clearly told is that claiming at 62 does not just reduce your own check. It destroys the survivor benefit your spouse receives after you die. Here is the math. Let me walk you through it the way nobody walked Walter through it. A worker with a full retirement benefit of $2,200 at age 67 who claims at 62 receives roughly $1,540 per month. That is a 30% permanent reduction. Over a 17-year retirement from age 62 to 79, that is $2,200 minus $1,540 equals $660 less per month. $660 times 12 months equals $7,920 less per year. $7,920 times 17 years equals $134,640 lost during the worker's own lifetime. Now, the survivor benefit. When the worker dies, the surviving spouse is entitled to the higher of their own benefit, or the survivor benefit based on the deceased worker's record. But the survivor benefit is calculated using whatever the worker was actually receiving. If the worker claimed at 62 and was receiving $1,540, the survivor receives a maximum of $1,540 per month. If the worker had waited until 70, the benefit would have grown to roughly $2,728 per month due to delayed retirement credits of 8% per year. The survivor would then receive up to $2,728 per month. The difference between the survivor receiving $1,540 and $2,728 is $1,188 per month. $1,188 times 12 months equals $14,256 per year. Over a 15-year widowhood, that is $213,840 lost to the surviving spouse. Add the worker's own lifetime loss of $134,640, and you get a combined family loss of roughly $348,000 over the full span of both retirements. But even in a more modest scenario, where the full benefit is $2,000 instead of $2,200, and the widowhood is 12 years instead of 15, the combined loss easily reaches $247,000. Last spring, a woman in Charlotte named Linda posted in a retirement planning forum that she had been a widow for 6 years. Her husband had claimed at 62. She was receiving a survivor benefit of $1,390 per month. She said she recently sat down with a financial advisor who calculated what her survivor benefit would have been if her husband had waited until 70. The number was $2,120. That is $730 more per month, she said, and I am paraphrasing what she shared publicly, that when her husband filed at 62, No one at the SSA office sat him down and said, "Here is what this decision costs your wife after you are gone." He was shown a monthly amount and he signed the paperwork. She said she wished someone had explained it the way a friend finally did, 30 minutes over coffee. That story hit a lot of people because it is not an edge case. It is one of the most common financial regrets in the retirement community, and it has a specific shape for families where the higher earner claimed early. Now, I want to be direct about something. If you already claimed at 62 and you have been collecting for years, I am not here to make you feel bad. What I am here to do is show you that there may still be money you have not recovered for reasons that have nothing to do with when you filed. Because here is what most people do not know. Even if you claimed at 62, the check you are receiving right now may still be wrong because the earnings record feeding that calculation may have never been corrected. And that is the fixable part. That is the part the SSA will actually do something about if you bring them the proof. So, here is what I want you to do, and this is the part of the video you should be writing down. The first thing is to go to ssa.gov and create or log in to your My Social Security account. It takes about 10 minutes if you have never done it before. Once you are in, you are looking for your earnings history. That is a year-by-year record of every dollar that was ever reported to Social Security under your name and your Social Security number. Go through that record carefully. You are specifically looking for any year where the number seems wrong. A year that shows $0 when you know you were working. A year where the income seems far lower than what you were actually earning. If you find one, you have found money that was taken out of your benefit calculation without your knowledge. Even a small correction to your earnings record can increase your monthly benefit. And if your benefit increases, the survivor benefit your spouse receives after you also increases. The second step is to check whether you qualify for a withdrawal of your Social Security application. This is the step almost nobody takes. If you claimed within the last 12 months and you have not yet received your first payment, or you can repay all the benefits you and your family have received so far, you can withdraw your application. It is like it never happened. You get a do-over. You can then reapply at a later age for a higher monthly amount. The form is ssa.521. It is available directly on the SSA website. Most people do not know this option exists because the SSA does not advertise it, and the repayment requirement makes it difficult for many retirees. But if you can manage the repayment, even through a loan from family, the long-term gain can be enormous. The third step is to verify that delayed retirement credits were applied correctly if you or your spouse did wait beyond full retirement age. If you were born between 1943 and 1954 and delayed claiming beyond 66, the SSA was supposed to credit your benefit with an 8% increase for every year you waited up to age 70. That is a potential 32% increase above your full benefit if you waited all the way to 70. Errors in that calculation are less common, but they do happen. And if your benefit was supposed to reflect 3 or 4 years of delayed credits, and it does not, your survivor is leaving real money unclaimed. Now, here is something important about timing that I do not want you to miss. While the SSA does have some discretion to correct obvious errors regardless of when they occurred, there is a general guideline that earnings are most easily corrected within 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days from the end of the tax year in which those wages were paid. That means the older the error, the harder it can be to fix, and the more documentation you are going to need. This is not a reason to panic. It is a reason to move on this sooner rather than later. I also want to address something that comes up every time I cover this topic, which is the connection between Social Security claiming and what your kids actually inherit. Most people think of Social Security as retirement income, a monthly check that covers living expenses. That is part of it. But Social Security is also an inheritance strategy. Every dollar your benefit is reduced is a dollar your surviving spouse does not receive. Every dollar your spouse does not receive is a dollar your kids eventually have to replace out of their own pockets. Property taxes, home repairs, medical bills, prescriptions. When Barbara in Dayton could not afford the $4,800 property tax bill on the house Walter left her, her 2 sons split it every year. For however long Barbara lives, that is $2,400 per son per year. Over 15 years, that is $36,000 per son. On top of the $172,800 Barbara lost in survivor benefits, that money came out of her son's retirement accounts. Their kids' college funds, their own financial security. Walter's decision at 62 did not just affect Walter. It affected 3 generations. In May of this year, a report from a government oversight office confirmed that thousands of widows and widowers had been underpaid due to a calculation error involving a process called the Widows Indexing Computation. The SSA itself acknowledged the problem. Those people did not do anything wrong. They filed correctly, they waited the right amount of time, and the math inside the SSA's own system was applied incorrectly during a manual processing step. The Inspector General estimated that roughly 40% of surviving spouses reviewed during that period may have been affected by similar errors. 40%. That is not a rounding error. That is a systemic problem that the government quietly acknowledges when pressed, but does not go out of its way to publicize. This is the part I want to stay with you after this video is over. The Social Security Administration is not your adversary. Most of the people who work there are trying to do their jobs, but the system is enormous. It is complex. It was built on decades of paper records and manual entries. And the honest reality is that it makes mistakes that cost real families real money. The burden of catching those mistakes does not fall on the SSA. It falls on you. And the only way you catch them is by looking. If you claimed at 62, your full retirement benefit was supposed to be calculated on your 35 highest earning years, correctly recorded and correctly indexed, and then reduced by a fixed percentage based on how many months early you filed. Before you close this video, go to ssa.gov, log into your My Social Security account, and look at your earnings history. All of it. Every year going back to the beginning. If you see something that does not look right, it probably is not. The form to fix it is SSA 7008. The form to withdraw your application is SSA 521. The number to call is 1-800-772-1213. Send this video to one person you love who claims Social Security at 62 and has a spouse depending on their survivor benefit. One share takes 10 seconds. If their earnings record has even one missing year, finding it could put over $1,000 a year back into their account permanently. And if their survivor benefit was calculated on a reduced amount, catching the error could mean the difference between their spouse keeping the house and losing it. That is what this channel is here to do. If this made a complicated topic easier to follow, subscribe and hit like. The Inheritance Quick Shield Guide has the survivor benefit calculator, the claiming age comparison worksheet, and the earnings record audit checklist we covered today. Link is in the description. I will see you in the next one.